ሰላም በዚህ ቪዲዮ ሌክቸር ቻፕተር 5 ዲቨሎፕመንታል ኢኮኖሚክስ ኢንቫይሮንመንት ኤንድ ዲቨሎፕመንት የሚለውን እናያለን ማለት ነው። ሶ ኢንቫይሮንመንት ወይም አካባቢ ከእድገት ጋር ምን አይነት ተጽዕኖ አለው የሚለውን እናያለን ማለት ነው። ራይት basic issue and sustainability. So the dual role of the poor in nation to environmental degradation, right? Poverty and lack of education maybe just lead to what? Unsustainable what? Use of environmental resource, right? So must survive in the short run, economic necessity, right? So destroying environmental resource have a quiz for self-sufficiency and just future growth potential, right? So sustainability what? Means what? Meeting the need for the present generation without compromising the need for the future generation, right? እንግዲህ sustainability ምንለው ምንድነው? ለአሁን ብቻ መኖር ከእጅ ወደ አፍ ለወደፊቱ ጀነሬሽን አለማሰማት ነው። What's the dual role of the poor? Right? The victims, right? That means the poor live in what? Environmentally degraded land which are less just expensive because the rich avoid them, right? People living in poverty have less political clout to reduce pollution where they live, and living in less just productive polluted land gives the poor less opportunity to work their way out of poverty, right? What is the agents, right? The high fertility rate of people living in poverty, short time just horizon of the poor, maybe long tenure insecurity, right? These are and also incentive for reinforced resettlement, right? What's the demand for economic method to study sustainable development? What's the demand, right? What's the demand? Maybe appropriate evaluations of future social benefits, maybe generally placing more weight on the features than the market does, right? Paying proper attention to the market failure and explicitly the valuing. That means natural resource as a form of capital stock rather than what? Just a form of capital stock rather than just a stream of consumption. Environment coordinate curve or economic just growth versus the environment. So graph reflecting the concept that pollution and other environmental degradation first rise and then fall with increasing in per capita income, right? እንግዲህ environmental coordinate በenvironmental coordinate curve የምንለው ምንድን ነው? graph ነው. It's a graph reflecting what the concept that pollution and what the other environmental degradation first rise and then fall with increasing per capita income or GDP, right? So as the income and consumption level rise, it's likely to be a net increase in the environmental destruction, right? So empirical evidence that the relationship holds for some pollutants, that means sulfuric acid, maybe sulfur dioxide, but not for maybe other types of greenhouse gas emissions, right? What's the environmental coordinate curve? Strength and weakness, right? What is the strength and the weakness, right? So the relationship may vary maybe greatly across countries. It may be different for different countries, right? Such empirical irregularities are not informative of causality, right? And environmental pollution itself may cause slow economic growth, right? The environmental pollution itself may cause what? A slow economic growth. And as a third factor, maybe weak institution may lead to both environmental degradation and low income growth. And global problems require what? International policies. Environmental policies can result in this inward shift of the curve. What is IPCC report? That means International Panel on Climate Change, right? So the United Nations just nation-supported scientific body analyzing climate change and its impact, right? So this created to provide policymakers with just regular scientific advice or maybe on climate change, its implication and potential future risk, as well as put forward adaptation and mitigation option, right? The conclusions, right? Is a developing world, right? Particularly the poorest countries, what? Can expect what? A major consequence from global warming, including maybe high average temperature, hurricanes, food and drought, loss of what species, crop at sea, right? Or maybe fishing loss, right? This may be the impact for the poorest countries, right, for the developing world, right? So what's the Stern report? What's Stern report? The conclusion, right? All countries will be affected by what? Climate change, right? But the poorest country will suffer earliest and most. Right? Depends on natural resource, maybe rain-fed agriculture, poorly constructed housing in high-risk areas, lack of insurance against risk, maybe rise the risk of what? Disease and conflict, right? There is one, the concept of mitigation and adaptation, right? What's mitigation and adaptation? Mitigation is what involve the reductions of any emission of any just greenhouse gas that contribute to the climate change, right? But and also regulation, tax or subsidies to deal with causes, right? There is a regulation, there is taxes, maybe subsidies to deal with the cause. Adaptation, right? Adaptation involves what? Responding to the change induced as a result of what? Climate change. Adaptation can be what? Maybe reactive or maybe anticipatory, right? That means it's a risk management, right? Or it may be actions undertaken by firms, households, and farms in just response to experienced or anticipatory climate change, or private or maybe public, right? This is adaptation, what we call adaptation, right? What is the strategy to mitigate and adapt to climate change, right? Strategies. Maybe for mitigation emission, right? Mitigate emission, maybe carbon market, maybe regulations, maybe tax on this carbon, or subsidies to encourage technological development, energy efficiency and internalization, right? And also Stern review suggests a long-term quantity limit on greenhouse gas, just equal to a quantity that can be absorbed, right? So for adaptation, maybe public action, maybe warning system, preventive action, maybe preserving funds for crisis, infrastructures, maybe flood barriers, protected road, bridges, and provisions of insurance. It's maybe used, right? And also in the private, we can just take some actions. For example, maybe change farming practice, or maybe crop diversification, drought resistance crop, cattle shelter, maybe diversify income source to become less dependent on farming. These are some of the adaptation that we are going to use in private, right? So the other one is economic model of environmental issues, right? Economic models. The first one is neoclassical theory. Neoclassical this theories, maybe its inefficiencies in the allocation of resources that from market failure, right? Or maybe the distortions that prevents the market from functioning efficiently, right? And as long as the resources are privately owned and there are no market distortion, the resource will be allocated, right? Allocated efficiently. And private property rights characterized by universality, exclusivity, transferability, enforceability, right? So under this condition, the owner of the scarce resource has an economic incentive to maximize the net benefit from its sale or use, right? And also a farmer who owns his land will choose a level of investment, maybe collateral, that just maximizes net yield, right? The common resource. What's the common resource? Right? A resource that is publicly owned and freely available to all, right? This is a common resource or public resource, we call, right? So in shared resource system, individuals act according to their self-interest, right? And not in the interest of the common goods, right? Such collective action can deplete or maybe spoil a resource tragedy of the commons, right? What we call the tragedies of the commons, right? So commons is this taken to mean that any shared resource, atmosphere, ocean, fish stock, or etc., right? So many examples of just common resource systems that are at risk of collapsing due to what? Overuse, right? Also example of just system that sustain because of joint action to preserve the system. Maybe example cooperation, right? Cooperation is the best preserving method that we are going to use for common goods or public goods, right? To just decrease their overuse and to decrease the risk of spoil, right? To prevent from depletion, right? To depletion, right? So this is right. So what's public goods, right? Public goods may be just a good or resource that is characterized by non-rivalry and non-excludability in the concept, right? They are non-rivalry and what? Non-excludability. This is what? Public goods, right? Public goods. So can be just local, regional, national, or global. Often public provide, right? They may be local, they may be regional, maybe national, or maybe global, right? Worldwide resources, maybe, or goods, right? And responsibility by individuals without what? Reducing availability to others. That's why we call it non-rivalry, right? To others, public goods does not just reduce in supply. That is supply, the supply, not supply. It is supply, right? As a people consume them, non-rivalry, right? Such characteristics lead to free rider problem. That means the tragedy of the commons, right? Tragedy of the commons. And shrinking the public responsibility to pay for their province. That means refusing to pay taxes, right? These are some of the concepts that we are seeing in chapter 5, the environment and what's the development, right? So in the next video or in the upcoming video, we are going to see chapter 6, international trade theory and the development strategies, right? So if you are just get this video helpful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel and support me.